All right, we are back with Josh Wadsworth from Bamboo HR about how Bamboo HR leverage edge delivery services to empower developers and unleash value. So, Josh, take us away.
All right. Thanks, Sherry. So, like she said, I'm Josh Wadsworth. I'm not an Adobe employee. I'm an engineering manager at Bamboo HR. I've been with Bamboo for a little over 3 years. I spent about the last year and a half or so working with Edge Delivery to level up our marketing properties. I just want to give everybody a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. So, first, I do want to get everybody up to speed on who Bamboo HR is and what we do. We'll talk about our scale, some usage metrics for Adobe Edge Delivery. Then we'll talk about our journey and how we got involved with the VIP program and why we settled on implementing with Adobe Edge. After that, I do want to walk through some of the benefits and challenges we've seen as we've come across it and implemented the system and migrated our content. So, showing a couple examples of block components that we built and some that we extended, and an example of some of the RUM data that we utilize. Then I do want to sum up at the end some of our overall takeaways to try and help illuminate what it might be like for you to use Adobe Edge. Last, I do hope to leave a couple of minutes at the end for a Q&A. We do have a moderator. Dylan is in the chat. He can collect some of those questions and we'll try to wrap some at the end. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So at Bamboo, we provide an application that brings all the major elements of HR together into a single platform. Things like HR data and reporting, payroll, benefits administration, time tracking, hiring tools, those kinds of things. At Bamboo, our mission is to set people free to do great work. And honestly, that's the mission statement's been pretty important to us, especially as we referenced it quite a bit as we were implementing Edge Delivery. Our goal was to set our marketing department free to do great work. We wanted to provide a framework, make authoring and publishing just a much more seamless experience for our own colleagues. So to date, Bamboo's moved the majority of our marketing content, I would say, and public facing content into the Edge Delivery system. The remaining content that we haven't moved is actually on our roadmap. So we'll get that moved shortly. So let's give you a sense of our size and scale to kind of see how we relate to what you are. We've migrated approximately 2,500 pages of content into Edge Delivery, and we're actively creating all new articles in the new system. There are currently 32 active content authors using the framework, along with a couple of external contractors as well. Our current weekly average of new and edited articles is about 45 publishes a week. All right. At Bamboo, we love to solve problems, especially when it's the fun kind, because we've scaled. We've outgrown our own previous systems. So we needed a new and improved tool set. In the earlier days, we had originally our own homegrown code base that we used to wrap a third-party simple CMS, a headless one that managed our content types and models. And then, of course, we had a sort of disjointed set of WordPress sites. It worked great when we were smaller. We only had a few content authors regularly publishing to our website, but now we've got a variety of things, including we've got webinars and podcasts and expert guides, various event landing pages. We even host our own annual HR conference. So in our search to choose the right system, we landed on Adobe AEM, and we were planning to support that transition with an outside expert contractor. However, with several of Bamboo HR's leadership having come from Adobe, this is not an Adobe slide, this is a Bamboo slide, namely Brad Rencher is our CEO, Justin Judd is our CFO, and Ryan Packer is our CTO. So no surprise that David Nuschler from Adobe saw an opportunity for a partnership in the beta program for what was at the time called Project Helix. So we sat down with David and the Helix team for a demo. I say demoing, but it really kind of amounted to David presenting an entirely migrated and working copy of our blog. It was fully operating in the Edge Delivery system, 100-point Lighthouse score, as we've seen mentioned several times today, right out of the box. So he just said, here you go, it's done. If you want it, turn it on. So From a pure calendar perspective, it took us a little while to assure and convince our marketing leadership of the gains of using edge delivery. And from a technical leadership standpoint, the system, it almost seemed too simple. It was incredibly accessible, but it almost seemed too simple. There was no build at all. However, we did review and we got familiar with the edge network architecture. We found it to be well laid out. It was complex, but very robust. It gave us what we need. We finally took our blog live in October of 2022, so a little over a year at this point. So let's dive into some of the impact that we've seen across, and some challenges that we've seen as we've gone. For this illustration, I'm going to use just our blog website to represent what we've seen. Prior to migrating our content into Edge Delivery, we were averaging super low for Core Web Vitals and Lighthouse Score. I'm going to use the Lighthouse Score for this, but Core Web Vitals pretty much followed suit. We were getting about 30. It was high 20s, low 30s, trying to be conservative in this slide. But we were low. We migrated in October 2022 and immediately got that 100 following just basically the default configuration. So we were obviously pretty excited about that. But we had to wait for some calendar time to pass for search engines to crawl and catch up in order to see that benefit. I'll tell you, that's one of the hardest parts of maintaining performance. Been alluded to several times today across some of the other sessions, but you don't see benefits or negatives from your organic rankings until at least a month or two, or even longer, depending on what you're doing. But Google's got their rotation. It takes a good 28 days at minimum. But eventually we did see the benefit at the end of November last year. It was clear that we were seeing some organic traffic lift. What happened from there is something I do want to share as a challenge that you'll see on the technical side. Without getting too much into the weeds, there was some analytics attribution questions that came up where we were required to remove the 4-second lazy load delay that was defined for our third-party scripts in our MarTech stack. So the December dip you see on the chart there, it's kind of a natural annual occurrence, but we removed that lazy load delay in February. We had a significant number of third-party tags I loaded through Google Tag Manager. It resulted in an immediate drop of our Lighthouse score to the low 60s. So now that we had a lower score, kind of caused some rumblings of sort of a script review there early in February and March. I'm going to mark it on here as script review A, just to kind of show the traffic over time. These efforts did have a marginal benefit. We deferred some of our kind of the heavier scripts that were being loaded through that stack. And we were able to get back up to about 72 on average. Later happened again. I'll call it script review B here. This time, the major discussion was we had implemented Adobe's Web SDK into the framework. We were super confident that was going to be a big step to push our performance back up to the 100 again. However, there was another MarTech decision that added some significant overhead for a A/B testing framework. And we were required to add it to the site-wide, and it created overwhelming negative performance, offset by Web SDK enhancements. So we weren't able to see the benefit of that Web SDK. The detriment to the Core Web Vitals and organic became apparent within just a few weeks as the pages started going red on their scores. So we were down into the 40s again. After about 3 to 4 weeks, it was pretty clear that the negative performance hit was not worth the gains that we'd seen in that organic lift. And we were able to pull that change out. So after pulling it, we had to wait a couple more weeks, of course, while it was in production. We could finally see the benefit of our efforts to implement the Web SDK. And we got back. So once we pulled that, we were back up into the mid 80s on average. Since then, a couple other minor scripts have been added. We've been adding various business value items, and we're currently sitting at about 80. So after that walkthrough of kind of our journey there, what have we actually seen? So with our ups and downs over the course, we're overall up on our Lighthouse score by 49 points. That's comparing to prior to using Edge Delivery. And that has given us a 30% lift in organic traffic attributed to the Lighthouse score being higher. And that's still climbing. It's significant for us, At least for our org, um, we also see traffic from organic convert much higher than the other channels. We're not done, at least on the technical side, due to the major benefits we've seen. We want to keep pushing toward that 100, or at least as near as we can. So the Adobe Edge framework is set up to get there, but it does take advocating for other competing marketing needs for us. This is just another example. This is our integrations marketplace. Overall, the traffic's lower there, but since migrating to Adobe Edge in November, this followed the blog. We've seen an 80% organic lift on that site specifically. So next impact, another major benefit for us has been onboarding of new developers into the framework. It is much simpler than our previous homegrown coded solution. The Edge delivery component blocks are written in plain JavaScript and CSS. The concepts and structures are easily understood in a very short period of time. When we've gotten into a time crunch, we've been able to even borrow developers from our other teams at our company. Within a day or two, they're being effective. So it's been super helpful that way. I'm going to try to show a quick demo. I've seen a couple today, so hopefully mine highlights a couple of different things. I saw some people asking about how to extend a block, and I think we can show that pretty well. So here, I'm going to use our logos block as an example. We just have a simple logos block. It's CSS only, pure CSS. There was no JavaScript in it. All it did, here's an example of an instance of it. We just had it, so just a table on a page, and we just threw images at it. Ekram, in the previous discussion in this channel, at least, we just throw images in here. They auto optimize. They resize. The CSS just spaces them out so they look decent. And we get kind of a view like this. So this is the default function of our logos block. We've got the 3 resized and spaced images there. Well, we had a requirement come up where we wanted to load resources from kind of a common directory, that partner logos that we wanted to show on a web page. So we wanted to go and extend that. I'm going to cheat and copy paste so that you don't have to wait for me to type some code out. But we added about 20 lines of code to that logos block to extend it. And all mainly this is doing is building a list that's loading from an asset directory based on the file name. Let me go ahead and push that up, and then I'll show you how that instance, how the instance looks. All right. And similar to some of the other breakouts that I've seen today, we're using a branch, a dev live test branch that I already created prior to this discussion. But I love the ability to be able to test these things on branch. So now that that code is up there, you can see I'm on the branch here for our document. This is the special URL format that Edge uses. And down here, I had an instance already there. It didn't break the page. The content was there. It's not optimal, but let me show you what that looks like in the Google Doc. Here's our default view. And then I've just got a space here, a title, and then logos with the partners configuration row. The partners configuration row just takes a comma separated list of the names of assets in that directory. And if I go reload this page over here with the new code that I just pushed up on branch, we'll go slow like I've seen others. All right. So reloaded. Now we have our partners logos being loaded from that asset directory. Pretty slick. But then, they're colorful. Sometimes they clash with some of the marketing content that's on the page or other imagery. So we came in and they wanted to load a grayscale version. So we created another content folder that had grayscale copies. We just replaced that line there to load an alternative based on a class on the block. We just called it grayscale, and you can see it loads from the grayscale directory. Let me push that up, and then I'll go show you the instance. Call this commit grayscale. Okay. So in our Google Doc down here, I've got this call out to a few of our grayscale partners. It's a different list of partner logos. And this one has this extension for grayscale just in parentheses to extend that class. It just adds the grayscale class. Over here, you'll notice without it, it just ignores it. This is the view that we're seeing here was loaded using the default config before I even changed it. So if I reload, you'll notice that it'll apply that grayscale. So then the second row is now grayscale. If the code wasn't supported, they just loaded it with the color. It didn't matter that the grayscale was already in the doc. So that's kind of just a simple example of one of the blocks that we've used and how we've extended it. Don't get me wrong though, like I've seen a lot of simple examples today where it's pretty cool that we can test on branch like that. But one thing that's really cool to note is we also have, you can go deep with these blocks. For example, we have an onboarding calculator that it even has a configuration loaded from a JSON file, multi-step form to help our customers calculate the cost of their onboarding. This is a several hundred line JavaScript file and some CSS for this block. I'm not going to edit this one because it's a little more complicated. Over here, this is a live document on our site. We've got an instance of our onboarding calculator here with an initial marketing image and some copy. This spreadsheet is actually converted to JSON by Edge Delivery. When I publish this, in fact, if you go and use the tool to preview it, it'll render this as JSON. And then that JSON can be loaded in the block code so that you can use it to code around anything you really want. And then let's show the actual working copy of this block. This is from our blog on an article called Cost of Onboarding Calculator. And its purpose is, if I click, I'm an organization, let's say the average employee salary is 70K. Let's say 80 hours to onboard each new hire. I don't have any idea what a normal amount is for new hire expenses. So 15. And then let's say we hired 20 employees a year. And then it just calculates based off of the configuration in that spreadsheet. So just an example of a more complex block that could be used. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slides. Right. So those are a couple, that's our developer onboarding was huge. Another impact that we had was process efficiencies. So in the old way, first we'll show the old way. To be clear, some of the old way was just kind of burdensome things that we picked up over time, but Edge Delivery process kind of helped us to kind of pushed us forward to change our ways. So before we were starting with the stakeholder, typically a marketing leader, working out some concepts for the next big marketing campaign. For us, these would often be drawn out on paper or rough whiteboard sketches. The stakeholder would then take the idea to a copywriter for a rough draft. This was often a Google Doc that intermingled more concise text with image placeholders. Of course, then you take it to design to get a more fully fleshed out and represent the stakeholders' ideas and beautifully laid out Figma designs. There was usually multiple copies. We had desktop, tablet, mobile devices. Intermixed between all of that would be other interested parties like SEO, CRO, security, marketing ops, demand gen, lots of hands in the cookie jar typically. Finally, the collective work of all the amazing, talented marketing stakeholders would be presented with a bow to development. I mean, the work is already done, right? So we should just be able to quickly go live before the next email campaign in the morning. All should be right in the world, except when it isn't, and except when development must crush the hopes and dreams of all those marketing stakeholders and let them know the sad news that it's going to take us a couple of weeks to make the magic happen because it's non-standard. All right, let's look at the new way. The new way with Adobe Edge, how we've implemented it. More often than not, our stakeholders and copywriters are now enabled to produce content that they need without much involvement from the parties that we listed previously. That includes development. So it did take some ramp up time to get there. That is true. We did have to build out a block component library really, but it did go much faster than we initially thought it would. When the stakeholders get to the edges of what's supported in the blocks as they try it out, then they engage development and design to determine how long it'll take to build out a new block. Again, development has turned out to be quicker than we thought. And often, like I just showed on the logos block, we can simply extend um, something that's already exists to meet the needs. Right. The other stakeholders that I mentioned are still involved, but we've kind of canonized the activities and the needs into our process. So with the componentized nature of the process, the natural correct parties are more involved now, or are involved early and at the natural place that they need to be. So it feels like a more cohesive team effort than it did before. I mean, I'm not going to lie, our new process is far from perfect, and we're iterating and refining and growing. And also in some ways, um, the new development paradigm of edge delivery forced us to improve what needed to be improved anyway. So another great impact has been RUM, which was pointed out previously several times. But the addition of the queryable RUM data has been awesome for visibility for our developers to keep an eye on things and troubleshoot. The example here is a RUM endpoint that we hit regularly to see how often a block has been viewed. And in this case, it's the onboarding calculator. So I can see how many times that's been in the viewport and get some stats on that. There's a whole bunch of queryable RUM data available out of the box that's like we could talk about for a while. All right, let's be real on a couple of challenges that we did have that you're probably going to come across or likely could. There's lots of little things as you implement new frameworks, but a couple I felt like worth calling out. I touched on it a little already, but we did struggle to advocate for organic lift versus potential value brought by other third-party tools and scripts that are often used in marketing for us. It's not so much a challenge with the framework; it's more of a conceptual challenge. Adobe has gone all in on the performance benefit, and it provided a framework to keep it very high. And as a developer, it's great to see performance metrics that are just amazing. But I know there are other business initiatives and tools that provide business value as well. So with organic traffic being kind of a long tail metric, it just takes a strong effort to advocate for keeping it high. It's worth it and it will add business value, but a month or two can seem like an eternity when you're waiting waiting to see the benefit of the lift. So a lot can happen in that time. Next, just like any framework, I would recommend advocating for good and tight standards upfront. The framework is a great start, but you have enough leeway to shoot yourself in the foot on standards. The system will let you do it. And we're guilty of just doing one-off overrides for specific cases already. We've been using the system long enough that we've seen ourselves be too loose and start to let the non-standard things balloon, but we're trying to correct that and make a stronger case for consistency. One other thing that we noticed was we had some challenges with migration. Our blog and our integrations marketplace that I mentioned before are both fairly straightforward sites with content styles that are reused on nearly every article. However, due to the fact that we could previously custom code around anything, our legacy homegrown system had become a hodgepodge of overrides and often non-standard templates. So with many stakeholders and site areas, it became, and it kind of still is, a discussion about curating what is important to migrate, both in design and content. I doubt that we're the only ones that have to deal with this, but I just wanted to point out you're going to want a migration plan up front. Okay, let's kind of summarize some of our takeaways here. And then I think we should have a minute or two for Q&A. First, it was pretty scary to take the leap of faith to use the system. It seemed oversimplified. Much of the system seemed to be handled in kind of the black box. I think that it's kind of the standard developer mindset to just really want to know exactly what things are doing. That was kind of hard at first. We took the leap of faith and we learned along the way, and we were able to find what we needed as the needs came up. We talked about the attributable organic traffic lifts due to the high lighthouse performance. As developers, it was incredibly awesome. I love that we start at 100 and then you can attribute performance hits to specific MarTech scripts or overhead that comes in from other supporting third parties. Developer accessibility is high and onboarding is fast with new people able to become effective in a day or two. There's no complex framework or nuanced build process or package installations or things like that. In some ways, it kind of felt like edge delivery for us as a framework. It was like a much needed correction to kind of move to more straightforward JavaScript and CSS coding. From a project speed perspective, it made us much faster by not having to focus on as many toil, that's the term we use, toil type of activities. We've been able to redirect developers to more and more higher value tasks as we've gone. Our development team has a much stronger working relationship with all marketing teams that have publishing needs. The system provides, pull up my next bullet point. The system provides a solid componentized method that's easily understood by our authors. Our authors are able to publish much faster and much more often. They're just now defaulting to just try it and go build a draft page. Somebody mentioned that earlier. We actually have, because they have the preview page and the live page. We're actually adding a third level by just having a folder that's drafts. And so people build things in drafts all day long and then can take it to the preview at its proper location and then take it live. So, but it helps them see the potential future feature gaps early on so that they can request them. Extensibility needs a call out. The system is extensible. It's a service within that can be added onto, especially where it's built in that bring your own document repo type of mentality. We use Google Docs, and Google has a pretty extensive API and app scripts framework. There's probably enough there for a whole course on that subject. We've done a lot with it, and it just definitely deserves a call. Of course, visibility into RUM data has been a huge win. It's awesome. We use it daily. I could go on and on, but I think that's a pretty good summary, and we're kind of up to a couple of minutes here, so I can answer anything that hasn't been answered yet. I don't see the chats going, so Sherry, let me know we're doing if there's things that are in the chat.
Yeah, I don't see any unanswered questions right now, Josh. Is there anything else that you wanted to share on your end that really stood out to you outside of this great presentation that you're getting good feedback for?
Thanks. Um, I saw it mentioned at a couple of places. We're actually kind of leaning into the Franklin experimentation framework. We actually have a couple of live experiments going on our site as well. There's a lot of like edges that I keep forgetting to even comment on that are awesome abilities in the system that get kind of light call outs and on the sides that we found very beneficial. I love the experimentation framework and it's performant. So
Awesome. I see quite a few people saying great presentation, best one I've seen today. Oh, here's a question. Is there a UI dashboard for RUM data views? They're asking.
we're hitting it all with API. I've been told that Adobe's working on some UI views, but no, as of right now, we've kind of built our own um,
Okay.
around it with API hits.
Okay. And I see Martin replied in the chat that it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sweet.
It looks like that may be it, but thank you so much. It looks like if people have questions, they can reach out to you. We'll also be sharing the recordings on Experience League, and they'll be able to ask their questions in the thread there. So
I've been told to join the Discord too. I wasn't there, so I'll be there too.
join all
I've
the.
joined.
All right. Thank you so much, Josh.
Okay, thanks.